It's not what you say. It's not what you do. It's what you tolerate. Most men destroy attraction without even knowing it, until it's too late. First mistake. Thinking attraction is built by words. It isn't. It's built by presence, by boundaries, by what you allow and what you walk away from. And here's the brutal truth. Most men never figure this out until they've already lost her respect. They believe being good enough will win the girl. They believe effort equals desire. But that's not how her mind works. That's not how deep attraction is formed. And every man who ignores this truth ends up chasing, not choosing. She doesn't want to be convinced. She wants to be led. And leading isn't about control. It's about self-control. The first, deadly mistake, needing her validation. The second she feels your energy orbiting her approval, her desire starts to die, not because she's cruel, but because you've made her the sun. And no woman can desire a man who stops being the center of his own life. The Stoic man never hands over that position. Not for love, not for beauty, not for anyone. Second, mistake, reactivity. You think answering her texts faster will pull her closer. You think proving your interest makes you a real man. It doesn't. It makes you predictable. And predictable isn't attractive. It's boring. The Stoic man holds the frame. He responds from presence, not from fear of loss. He knows that timing matters. That silence has power. That restraint fuels mystery. And mystery fuels her mind in ways you can't fake with words. Third mistake. Over-explaining every time you feel the urge to justify, defend, or over-explain your actions. You lose ground. You turn from leader to applicant. You shift from masculine energy to emotional begging. The Stoic man knows this. His value isn't up for debate. His choices aren't made to be approved. And his standards aren't lowered. For temporary attention, you either align or you exit. That's it. Fourth, deadly error. Tolerating disrespect. You let her cancel last minute. You let her test you with games. You ignore red flags because you fear losing her. But what you lose is greater. You lose her respect. You trained her how to treat you. And when you tolerate bad behavior, you teach her that you'll sacrifice self-respect for access. The Stoic man, he doesn't need access that costs him dignity. He walks, and that walk speaks louder than any words ever could. Fifth mistake, chasing after rejection. She pulls away, you double down. She ignores, you try harder. This is the death spiral of masculine energy. Every time you chase when you should be still, you erode her desire. The Stoic man knows, absence is a message. If she withdraws, he doesn't fill the gap, he honors the space. He protects his energy, because he understands, the right woman doesn't need to be convinced she aligns. Sixth mistake, over-investing too soon. Most men throw everything at a woman who hasn't earned it: time, energy, focus, all before she's shown true character. And when you overgive, you become undervalued. The Stoic man is patient. He observes. He lets attraction unfold. He builds slowly. And in doing so, he positions himself as a prize, not a project. That shift changes everything. Seventh mistake, abandoning purpose for romance. Too many men sacrifice their mission for a relationship. They trade ambition for comfort. But the Stoic man knows, purpose comes first. Because purpose is the fuel that makes him magnetic. The more deeply he lives in his mission, the stronger his presence becomes. And that presence, rooted in direction, creates the very attraction most men try and fail to force. You're probably seeing it now. These mistakes aren't about tactics. They're about energy, about how you move, how you think, how you lead yourself. Because in the end, attraction is never just about her. It's about you, who you are, what you tolerate, what you pursue, and what you refuse to compromise on. The Stoic man never forgets this. When he masters himself, he masters the dynamic. He doesn't chase approval, he builds it. He doesn't perform, he embodies. He doesn't beg for attention, his presence commands it. And if you avoid these 7 mistakes, she won't just notice you, she'll follow you silently, naturally, without games or force. Most men won't change. Not because they can't, but because no one ever showed them the cost of staying weak. They're surrounded by noise, telling them to be nice, to open up, to give her the world. And yet, they sit alone, confused, heartbroken, drained, wondering why it's never enough. They followed all the advice, and it failed them. Why? Because the modern man has been taught to perform instead of lead, to seek permission instead of power. But here's the secret. The second you stop orbiting women, you become the center of gravity. That's what she truly desires. A man who doesn't ask to be seen, but whose presence is impossible to ignore. And that presence doesn't come from tactics. It comes from your standard. That's why avoiding these 7 mistakes is a declaration. A line in the sand that says, I will not betray myself to be chosen. The man she craves isn't the one who reacts to her silence. It's the one who responds with discipline. The one who lets her pull away without flinching. The one who doesn't chase her because he's too busy chasing his purpose. He doesn't beg for clarity. He creates it in his own life. And that stability, that groundedness, is the very thing her nervous system craves, but doesn't know how to articulate. This is where the story shifts. Where the man who once overtexted, overthought, and overgave becomes silent, composed, focused, not out of revenge, out of awareness. He begins to see the pattern. Every time he tried harder, she pulled further. Every time he led with emotion, she responded with indifference. And finally, he understands. It was never about trying more. It was about being more centered, more patient, more powerful. He stops filling in the gaps. He lets her wonder. He lets her feel the absence that used to be filled with effort. And in that space, something changes. She starts to lean in, slowly, cautiously. Not because he begged, but because he didn't. Because his silence wasn't anger. It was clarity. And clarity is rare. Now the roles reverse. While he builds, she checks. While he elevates, she questions. While he moves, she lingers. This is what happens when a man shifts from chasing women to chasing himself. Everything flips. Not because he played games, but because he left the game. And he doesn't stop. There he takes that energy and multiplies it. Into his body. Into his business. Into his discipline. While others scroll, he lifts. While others gossip, he reads. While others seek attention, he sharpens his identity. And soon, he doesn't just become attractive. He becomes unforgettable. This is the moment most men never reach, the point where he no longer wants her back. Not out of bitterness, but because he's not the same man anymore. The man who begged was just a version, not the final form. The final form walks silently, chooses deliberately, speaks rarely, leads daily. He used to think the biggest loss was losing her. Now he knows. The real loss would have been losing himself to keep her. That realization hits like lightning, and he never looks back. And here's where most men sabotage it. They see progress, they feel stronger, and then she sends a text, or likes a photo, or drops a "Hey, how've you been?" And, just like that, they fold. They slip right back into validation mode. They break the silence. They give away the power they just started building. But not the Stoic man. He knows. Her reaching out isn't an invitation. It's a test. To see if the new version of him is real, or just a mask. The average man chases at the first sign of attention. But the Stoic man, he watches, he waits, he measures. Because his energy is no longer free, it's earned. And not every hey deserves access to what he's built in silence. This is what separates men who rise from those who stay stuck. The ability to resist the easy pull, to delay gratification, to prioritize legacy over lust. And in that resistance, something deeper is forged. A man who can walk alone, who can sit in solitude and find strength there. Because if your peace depends on anyone else, you have no peace. If your power can be pulled by a message, you have no power. She might not understand this change in you. She might accuse you of arrogance, of coldness, of not caring. But what she's really seeing is a man who cares too much about himself to lower his standard for temporary comfort. You used to need her attention. Now, you need alignment. And that energy can't be faked. It radiates in how you walk, how you speak, how you move. The beauty is this. Once you stop making these deadly mistakes, you don't just become attractive to her, you become dangerous to every low-standard connection. You no longer tolerate half-interest. You no longer entertain emotional games. You no longer sacrifice your edge to be liked. And the world feels that shift. Friends, business partners, women, everyone. Because the man who doesn't flinch in the face of rejection can't be controlled by it. And that's power most people have never seen. A man who could have, but chose not to. A man who could chase but didn't. A man who could react, but remained still. That stillness speaks. Louder than any text. Louder than any compliment. Louder than any "I miss you." It says, I am not here to chase anyone. I am here to build, to lead, to elevate. And if you want access, you rise to me, or you fall away. That's why the Stoic man is rare. Not because he's perfect, but because he's disciplined. Disciplined enough to avoid the mistakes that kill attraction. Disciplined enough to protect his peace like it's priceless, because it is. And every time you resist the urge to chase, you grow stronger. Every time you let her feel the space, you grow more grounded. And every time you choose purpose over performance, you become the man she never saw coming, and now can't stop thinking about. Because in the end, it was never about being perfect. It was about becoming unshakable. And that's the moment it clicks. The moment most men finally see the game they've been losing for years. Not because they weren't good enough. Not because they weren't the right guy. But because they were playing the wrong game. Seeking approval instead of presence. Trading their power for attention. And until that ends, nothing changes. That's why most men fail here. Because breaking this cycle means breaking yourself. Killing the old version. The one who chased. The one who needed. The one who thought being nice was enough. And killing that man is painful. But it's necessary. Because the man you want to become is built in the fire of everything you used to tolerate. Every time you wanted to text first and didn't. Every time you wanted to explain yourself and chose silence. Every time you felt the pull to chase and walked away. That's where the new you is forged. Not in comfort, but in resistance. Because masculinity isn't given, it's earned. Through discipline, through restraint, through the daily choice to stay centered when everything in you screams to react. And that's why so few men reach this level. Because it's easier to chase than to wait. Easier to beg than to walk. Easier to be liked than to be respected. But the Stoic man knows, anything that comes easy, leaves easy. Anything that costs you your self-respect, costs you everything. So he sharpens. Every day in the gym. In his craft. In his purpose. He masters the art of moving forward without apology. Without explanation. Without fear. And in doing so, he stops attracting women who test him, and starts attracting women who trust him. Because that's the shift. When you embody presence, you stop being entertainment. And you start being a standard. And only certain women, rare women, are ready for that. The ones who aren't, they fall away fast. The ones who are, they rise to meet you. And now, you're no longer choosing from scarcity. You're choosing from abundance. Because you know what you bring. And you know what you won't tolerate again. That's why avoiding these deadly mistakes matters. Not just for attraction, for you. Because every time you compromise, you chip away at the man you could be. And every time you choose presence over performance, you sharpen that man. You become undeniable. Not because you chased love, but because you chased purpose. And that purpose, it's what will separate you from 99% of men. The ones who are still stuck in the loop, seeking, pleasing, performing. You're done with that. You've seen the truth. And the truth is, the more you build yourself, the less you chase. The more you sharpen your life, the more the right people naturally align. The more stoic you become, the more magnetic your presence. And here's the final key. This isn't a one-time fix. It's a lifestyle. You live it daily. You choose it in every moment. Because the second you relax, the old patterns pull you back. The second you slip, you become another man lost in the crowd. And the Stoic man, he refuses that fate. He rises every single day. And here's what separates those who rise from those who stay stuck: consistency. Anyone can hold frame for a week. Anyone can resist one text. Anyone can look stoic when things are easy. But real power is built in repetition, in becoming so solid that no test, no distance, no silence shakes your path. That's what the average man will never understand. It's not about one moment. It's about momentum. And momentum favors the man on mission. The man who wakes up early when others sleep. The man who sharpens his body when others scroll. The man who reads when others gossip. Because presence isn't a trick. It's a reflection of the life you build. And when you build it with discipline, it shows. Without words, without posts, without proving anything to anyone. That's why she feels the difference. Why her tests bounce off you. Why her silence no longer controls your mind. Because you've invested where most men waste, into yourself, into your values, into your energy. And energy doesn't lie. The man who knows who he is never has to explain it. You don't play it cool. You are cool because you are clear. You don't fake confidence. You embody it because it's earned. You don't act stoic. You live stoic because that's who you've become. And in this space, few can follow you. That's what makes you rare. Not because you sought rarity, but because discipline made you rare by default. And the more you move in this way, the less you tolerate anything that weakens your frame. People, distractions, empty relationships. You cut what drains you, so you can grow what builds you. And as your presence sharpens, everything shifts. Not just in women, in life. Opportunities appear. Respect increases. Your time becomes precious. Your peace becomes non-negotiable. And that's what draws her now. Not who you were, but who you've become. Not because you won her, but because you outgrew her. And people always feel when they've been outgrown. Not through arrogance, but through energy. You're walking a different path now. And if she can't rise to meet it, she gets left behind. Not with anger, but with truth. That's the essence of Stoic psychology. Alignment over attachment. Mission over emotion. Standards over shortcuts. And living this way doesn't just change how women see you. It changes how you see the world. The games stop mattering. The noise fades. And all that's left is the climb. The man you're building. The purpose you're shaping. And when you live like this, something powerful happens. You stop needing to be chosen. Because you've already chosen yourself. And here's the truth no one told you. Once you live like this, you can't go back. Not to the old patterns. Not to the weak habits. Not to the version of you who overinvested, who chased, who begged to be seen. That man dies, and good. Because only by killing him do you create the space for the real you to rise. The one who builds his life around purpose, not people. And this is what most men never experience. The peace that comes from not needing anyone. The clarity that comes from building something bigger than yourself. The magnetic pull that happens when your life is already full, already rich, already disciplined. That's when attraction flips. That's when the world starts chasing you. Not because you tried harder, but because you became more. Because here's what no one tells you. She doesn't miss the man who needed her. She misses the man who needed nothing. The man who walked without looking back. The man whose silence wasn't emptiness, but strength. And strength is rare. And rare is unforgettable. And this is where you start seeing the game for what it is. Most men are trapped in cycles they'll never escape because they're chasing connection before building foundation. But you're different now. You've seen what's possible. You've tasted what it feels like to stand alone. And now, you're addicted to the climb. To the sharpened version of yourself that's forged in solitude and discipline. And as you climb, everything changes. The way you see her, the way you see yourself, the way you filter the world. What once felt urgent, her reply, her attention, her validation now feels small. Because your mission expanded, and your vision outgrew the frame she once lived in. And here's the paradox. When you no longer need her, that's when she feels the strongest pull. But by then, it's not about her anymore. It's about you, your future, your peace, your power, and whether she aligns with that is her choice, not your responsibility. And this is what makes you untouchable. You've built a life so full that losing her isn't a loss. It's a filter, a test of who's meant to walk with you. And you only walk with those who elevate your mission, never those who drain it. Because a stoic man doesn't lead from emotion. He leads from values, from vision, from a place so rooted that no one can shake it, not even her. And the deeper you live in this truth, the more obvious it becomes. You're not here to chase her. You're here to chase mastery. And in mastering yourself, you become the rarest thing in her world. A man she can't control, can't replace, can't forget. And this is where the real transformation begins. When you stop living for temporary outcomes. You no longer train for her to notice. You no longer build for others to approve. You're not improving yourself to win anyone back. You're building because it's who you are now. Because mastery is your new baseline. And everything else, the respect, the attraction, the attention, is just a side effect. That's why you walk different. Not to be seen, but because your path is different. That's why your energy shifts the room. Not because you force it, but because you've become so clear that others feel it. And she feels it most of all. Because now, you're not the man who used to orbit her. You're the man she's trying to figure out how to reach but can't. Because you don't move from emotion anymore. You move from purpose. And purpose creates gravity. It draws the right people in. And it exposes the wrong ones. That's why so many fall away when you rise. Not because you pushed them, but because they can't breathe in the air you now live in. And the few who can, they don't test, they align, they respect. They recognize the energy you carry, because they've done the work too. And that's where life gets lighter, cleaner, more focused. Because now, Your world is built on standards, not scarcity. On clarity, not chaos. And you'll see it everywhere. In conversations, in business, in friendships, and yes, in relationships. You'll notice the games faster. You'll walk away sooner. Not out of coldness, but out of knowing. Because when you've tasted a higher level of self-respect, nothing is worth lowering it again. And that's the lesson most men never learn, because they never do the hard part. They never face the silence. They never endure the pull to chase. They never sit in the void long enough to let the old version die. But you did. You are. And every day you stay on this path, the new you is getting stronger, more defined, more magnetic. Because the Stoic man lives for this, the daily sharpening, the silent climb, the mission over moment. And that's why you'll never go back. Not because of her, because of you. Because once you feel what it's like to lead yourself fully, no one can lead you away from that again. And here's what starts to happen. The more you embody this, the more the world treats you differently. People notice, without you saying a word. There's a stillness in you now, one that doesn't flinch, doesn't chase, doesn't beg. And in that stillness, they feel weight. A gravity that makes them pay attention. And her, she feels it most of all. The space you once filled with effort is now a void she can't stop thinking about. Because here's the truth. When a man stops making those deadly mistakes, he becomes rare. Not because he's trying to be, but because most can't. Most men stay stuck in cycles, chasing validation, seeking approval, compromising values for attention. But you've broken out. You've chosen the harder road, and that road is shaping you into someone unforgettable. And here's the paradox. The more you lean into this path, the less you care who notices. The less you care about her response. Because now, your focus is upward, not outward. You're building something too powerful to be distracted by temporary validation. And in that focus, your presence sharpens. Your value increases. Your time becomes sacred. And she sees it, she feels it. In the silence, in the absence. In the version of you she never thought would walk, and never thought would rise. And now, her biggest fear isn't that you're angry. It's that you're indifferent. Because once a man reaches that state, when her attention no longer affects his direction, he becomes impossible to control. Impossible to forget. That's the power of Stoic discipline. The ability to lead your own life so fully that nothing, not love, not rejection, not silence, can pull you off mission. And that mission becomes your shield, your fuel, your compass. While others get lost chasing moments, you stay locked on your legacy. And this is where the old version of you finally dies. The man who sought permission. The man who overgave. The man who thought value was something to be proven. Gone. Replaced by a man who knows. Value is lived. Presence is earned. Peace is protected. And no woman, no situation, no test will ever make you trade that again. And here's the part most men miss. This path is permanent. You don't do it for a season. You don't do it to get her back. You do it because once you've seen the man you can become, there's no going back. The gym becomes non-negotiable. The discipline becomes who you are. The standards become the floor, not the ceiling. Because you've tasted what it feels like to lead yourself. And you refuse to ever lose that again. And the more you live this way, the more obvious everything becomes. You stop chasing attention because you see how cheap it really is. You stop tolerating disrespect because your self-respect is too valuable. You stop entertaining people who drain you because your time is too precious. And that clarity changes your entire reality. Not just in women, in life. Because the Stoic man isn't chasing love, he's building a legacy. He's not proving himself to anyone. He's proving himself to himself. And that's the most magnetic energy a man can carry. The energy of purpose, of direction, of knowing who you are and where you're going, no matter who comes or goes. And as you move like this, women feel it. They sense it. And those who can't rise to your level, they disappear. And you're good with that. Because you're not here to save anyone. You're here to lead yourself. And if someone aligns, they're welcome to walk beside you. But if not, you keep walking. Head high, mission first. And this is what separates you now. The patience to wait for what aligns. The discipline to protect what you've built. The strength to walk alone without fear, without apology. Because once you've become that man, you stop being controlled by anything outside yourself. And that's the rarest power of all. And here's the reality most men ignore. You can't half-step this life. You're either fully in it, or you'll get pulled back into the old cycles. The world will test you. She will test you. Life will throw distractions, old patterns, old feelings at you, to see if you'll crack. And if you haven't built a code, a standard, a purpose so strong that nothing moves you off it, you will fold. That's why the Stoic man trains daily, not just his body, but his mind, his discipline, his patience, his values. Because every day you stay on this path, the old life tries to pull you back. Friends who don't understand your new focus, women who want the old, weaker version of you, emotions that tempt you to chase, to react, to just this once lower your frame. But the man who's serious, the man building a legacy, never lowers. He sharpens instead. He adds one more layer to the foundation, one more brick to the fortress. And here's the part no one tells you. This is how true attraction is built, not in a single moment, not through clever words, but in who you are when no one is watching. When you stay on your mission after rejection, when you hit the gym after heartbreak, when you grind in silence while others waste time seeking validation, that's when the core of who you are hardens. Not cold, but unshakable. And the more you become this man, the clearer the world looks. You start to see what's real and what's fake. You stop chasing surface-level connections. You stop lowering yourself to fit in. Because you're no longer looking for something to complete you. You're building a life so full, it draws the right energy in naturally. And she feels it. She senses the distance, not in space, but in level. And that's what haunts her. Not that you disappeared, but that you elevated, that you kept moving, that she can't reach you where you're going. And the truth is, you don't even hate her for it. You've simply outgrown the need to make her understand. Because your time is too valuable now. Your peace is priceless. Your standards are set. And when you live this way, most will fall away, and that's good. Because the ones who remain, the ones who can walk at your level, they're rare. And that's the life you want now. One built on alignment, not on desperation. On strength, not on scarcity. You used to wonder what she was thinking. Now you wonder what's the next skill you need to master. The next move to build. The next goal to chase. And in that shift, that permanent rewiring, you become the man you never thought you could be. The one who leads not just women, but men, too. The one who sets the example. Who becomes the lighthouse others look to when the storms hit. And that's why the old you can't come back. Because this version, the disciplined, patient, powerful man you're becoming, he's just getting started. And this is where everything changes. When you look in the mirror and realize, you don't want the old life back. You don't want her back. You don't want to return to that man who needed attention to feel alive. Because now, you've built something too valuable, and the cost of losing it is too high. The old version of you, chased, reacted, broke, under pressure, that man is gone, and what stands in his place is a force no woman can manipulate. That's the truth you feel now, deep in your bones. You no longer tolerate weakness in yourself. You no longer seek approval in others. You no longer chase love, because you understand the only thing worth chasing is mastery. And mastery is what you're building now, day by day, rep by rep, choice by choice. Not for anyone else, for you. And when you live this way fully in it, no excuses, no half measures, the entire world bends around you. Not because you forced it, but because gravity favors the man on mission. The man who can walk through silence without folding. The man who can sit in solitude without losing himself. The man who can face rejection and turn it into fuel. Because now, the climb matters more than her opinion. The mission matters more than the message. The purpose matters more than the person. And that shift makes you rare. Because 99% of men never make it here. They stop when it gets hard. They fold when the tests come. But not you. You're still rising. And the man you're becoming is unstoppable. She'll feel it. They all will. Because when you stop making the deadly mistakes that weaken men and start living in discipline, purpose, and presence, your energy becomes untouchable. Not cold, not arrogant, just complete. And women, people are drawn to completion because it's rare, because it's undeniable. And here's the beauty. You don't need to chase anymore. You don't need to convince anyone of your worth. The life you're building, the presence you now carry, does all the speaking for you. In the gym, in your work, in your discipline, in your silence. And the more you live this truth, the more obvious it becomes. You are the prize. You are the gravity. You are the leader. And the woman who aligns with that energy, she won't test you. She won't pull away. She won't play games. Because real feminine energy surrenders to masculine leadership. But only when it's earned. And you've earned it, not with words, but with work. Not with promises, but with presence. And this is the final truth. It was never about her. It was about you. About building a version of yourself that no one can shake. About becoming the man who leads not for others, but for himself. And when you live this way, you attract the life you once thought was impossible. So remember this. Stop chasing. Stop reacting. Stop tolerating. Build yourself. Sharpen yourself. Lead yourself. Every single day. And the world, and the right women will follow. Because in the end, it's not about her choosing you. It's about you becoming the man who never needed to be chosen. If this message hit you deep, if you're done making the mistakes that keep men weak, then lock this in. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment below. I build myself no matter who stays or leaves. Because this is a brotherhood of men who rise, who choose mastery, who lead in silence and in strength. And if you're ready for that life, welcome to it. Let's build.